won't you listen to me? I got that flavor, I know you're dying to feed. I ain't no dancer, just got some hip in my feet. Now throw your hands up. Ooh, you bring the lighter, I got the fuse. You make a fire, I'll add the fuel. Follow my lady, just watch the shoes. Gotta turn the heat up to get this cool.
What's going on, everyone? Let me just make sure you guys can hear me loud and clear. Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. We have a special guest here today because, you know, we always recap Vanderpump Rules every single week, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit today because you know how I've been feeling lately about Vanderpump. But we'll see what our special guest has to say about this current season. But I also want to talk about the sneak peeks that we've been getting from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion that airs tonight and the Real Housewives of Miami reunion. Plus, are we in the era of Andy Cohen's takedown? I want to talk about that, but I had to have a special guest here today. He is a podcaster, an entrepreneur, and a friend of our platform. So please welcome the host of No Filter with Zack Peter. Zack Peter's here with us. Zack, what's going on?
Kempire. What's up?
First of all, Zack, enough the applause. First of all, thank you so much for being here and taking time out because I know you're a busy person.
Thank you for having me.
First off, you know,
yes,
you're disaster daters. I don't know if you've been. I want to start there. First of all, let me just play the promo so people can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. You have a new show called Disaster Daters, and you could tell us a little bit more about it in just a second. But let me just play a little bit of a promo.
I'm Zack Peter.
I'm Jeff Epstein. We're going to touch on everything: sex, dating, love, relationships, situationships.
Oh, God. Are you seriously on Grindr right now? Did you find any fun homeless people?
Let me just tell you, first of all, I lost my virginity to a lesbian named Celia.
What? I lost my virginity to like a 50-year-old man on an Amtrak train.
Table that one for later.
I'm a disaster dater.
I'm a disaster.
Have you been following the TikTok series? And if you haven't, this will definitely be a topic for your new show, Disaster Daters.
Yeah.
Risa Tisa on TikTok.
No.
Please, when you have a moment today or this week, it's a very long TikTok series of this woman that ends up dating this guy, marries this guy, ends up pregnant by this guy, only for this guy to be a compulsive liar. And she walks us through the entire thing in 52 parts.
Oh, I mean, he sounds like just my type.
Oh. Can you tell us a little bit more about your new show, Disaster Daters?
Yes, so it's a 6-episode limited series, but I mean it's doing so well that I think we might extend it beyond that. But it's a new podcast with me and my friend Jeff Epstein. That is his real name, and I convince him every day that he needs to change it. And he, for whatever reason, just loves to drive us all crazy with it. But so we host this new podcast that's all about sex, dating, and relationships. We put our souls out on the table. We share some of our worst and most cringeworthy, terrifying stories. We read stories that people send in, and we have some guests for those that are friends or that love like Bravo Land. They may be familiar with John Arthur Hill, who used to date Andy Cohen. He has a show on Radio Andy now. He's on the podcast. He's on Disaster Daters today. We have our final 2 episodes that dropped today, so you can binge all 6 episodes. It's wild. It's unhinged. We are so grateful to Spotify for giving us this opportunity. You know, as many people know, I've had a working relationship with Spotify for the past 2 years, and I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to go into their studios, which is, it's been exciting. And, you can see in the promo, my shirt is very much a little shady. So listen, you got to own it. Like today, I wore this shirt just for you, Kempire. It says ruthless, not toothless.
Oh, perfect. I love your merch. I love your merch. And more information can be found on Zack in the description of this video and audio if you're listening to this. But I love the premise of this show because look, I think anyone can relate to it. Yeah, we love the Bravo universe. We love the pop culture. But at the end of the day, we're real people that are dating. And sometimes you can learn, like the Risa Tisa situation and all the red flags that you'll see when you watch this. All the red flags that we miss when dating. So I'm not judging Risa, but because look, I'm sure when we listen to your new podcast, we'll be like, oh, how did you miss that red flag?
You're gonna laugh, but you're also surprisingly going to learn a lot, as we are through the process of revisiting some of these stories and kind of doing a little introspective work and realizing some of our own flaws. Like I learned, which I didn't realize, but according to some of the guests that we've had on, apparently I'm very jaded. And so, I mean, I would have never guessed that I'm jaded when it comes to love, but you live and you learn.
So now that you've heard this from other people, how have you changed being jaded? Can you change it? I'm sure you can.
I'm sure. Listen, it's a work in progress. Maybe season 2 we'll dive into that.
Well, I was excited when you told me about this. I was like, this sounds really good. Because, I don't really listen to a lot of Bravo related podcasts and things like that. So when you said you had this different thing that you're doing, I was like, oh, that sounds like something that I've been looking for. I've been looking for like new podcasts to get into. So I was like, we have to talk about this, especially because with the Risa Tisa of it all. For season 2, you need to cover that.
We need to cover that for sure, because she sounds like we have the same picker.
Well, I hope not. I hope not for you. I really hope not for you.
Disaster daters for a reason.
Oh, damn. Well, that part. Guys, if you're just joining us, I have our special guest, Zack Peter, here from No Filter with Zack Peter. All of Zack's information will be available in the description, but we brought Zack here so we can talk about some hot topics in the Bravo universe, but also Vanderpump Rules. Zack, I told you, I kind of hinted to you before this how I was feeling about Vanderpump Rules this season, but I want to hear your thoughts before I tell you my thoughts.
I mean, riveted on the edge of my seat every week. I mean, I've always said this should have been, and it should have been marketed as the final season of Vanderpump Rules. What they should have done was made it a short season, wrapped up everyone's storyline. That way everyone goes into it knowing, all right, this is going to be the end of our Vanderpump Rules storyline. Yeah. Use this as an opportunity to build up the Valley, get Sheena and Lala to dip on over to the Valley. Ariana doesn't care about being on television anymore. She's never really cared about being on the show. Katie cannot be bothered. She would rather be knitting on a couch. Schwartz, bless his heart, right? But like some of them are just, they're done. Like Sheena and Lala have a little more to give now that they're parents. They just bought homes in the Valley. That like that's a natural progression. But like we would have all been so tuned in and interested had we known this is the final season of Vanderpump Rules. We would have been like, let's send a final toast. Raise your glasses high, final toast to Vanderpump, and it would have been great. Whereas in this case, I just feel like this season, it's lacking a little bit, mainly because it's so focused on the fallout from Scandival, but we were so invested that we lived through this all last summer that it's like, we're not as invested reliving it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think that's a great idea, and probably that's what they should have done in season 10. But of course, they had the Scandival, all of it all. But you, as an entrepreneur and a business person, understand that Bravo made tons of money last season from Scandival. They were not trying to end it here. But I agree with you. You could transition them onto the Valley. Has that aired yet? Have you watched it?
No, it doesn't come out till March. But I mean,
Oh,
Alex Baskin even did his interview in the, Tom Sandoval's groundbreaking New York Times article.
mm.
Alex Baskin was interviewed in that, and he said that, like, production wise, they really struggled to get the cast to film together. They struggled, in terms of just moving the show forward this past season. That
Wow.
he was like, we were not even sure about like what the future of the show even looks like at this, because the cast is so fractured and divided that it kind of sounds like they're getting ready to wrap up Vanderpump altogether.
Mm.
Which I listen. I always think you should go out like Friends. Like when Friends went out, they were one of the highest rated shows on the air, and
On
you
top.
just you end on a high. You don't want to end up like a Roni, right? Where you're
Oh,
at a high, and then it just goes down, and then you bring a reboot. And
yeah. Agreed. Agreed. I mean, look, the ratings are still rating though for them. It's not hurting them.
it's not, but I don't know how sustainable those ratings are going to stand in the coming weeks. I think we're all kind of getting fatigued by it. What do you think about this season?
I'm really trying because I've never been a Vanderpump Rules fanatic. I knew about the show. I knew about the drama. I remember watching the initial pilot. I just never got into it. I got into it during Scandival. I watched the old seasons, and I was like, I get why people really have been engaged and loved the show over the years. But this season, I know we're only on episode 5. I don't know if it's because we sort of, like you said, lived through it. That makes me kind of feel like, what are we talking about? What do I care?
Yeah.
And sidebar, Katie and Ariana in this episode, I was sort of like, oh, I forgot you guys were here. Like it was kind of boring with their scenes. Have they opened their restaurant yet over there in WeHo? No.
No, and it doesn't look like they're opening up anytime soon, unfortunately. They keep saying that there are all these permit issues that they're running into, but like, come on, this was filmed last July, last August? It's February. We're getting into March.
Yeah.
Like it's not looking good.
Especially when you have, first of all, the platform that you have, and also the connections that you have, like with Lisa Vanderpump. I'm sure she would be more than willing to help them work through any of these issues. So it's kind of shocking that they still have not opened this place. It seems like it would be a very cute spot to go to.
I mean, it's a sandwich shop. I mean, cute, but like, you know, only listen. And I know this because I used to work not far from where that sandwich shop is.
Yeah.
That's not a great location. They've tried to open so many different like wellness stores and smoothie shops and like little spots
It's
there
a weird
all the
street.
time. It's a weird street. There's not a ton of foot traffic in that little area. And when you are going there, like you kind of already know where you're going to go. You're going to go to the Abbey or you're going to go to Sir, right? Or there are
Mm.
a bunch of other like better, restaurants around there that like it's just not an ideal spot.
I agree with that last sentiment. Spending time in WeHo a few months ago when you and I first met in
Yeah.
person, I was like, there are a lot of better restaurants and options over in that area, better than Pump and Tom Tom and all these other restaurants. But people go there because of this platform.
Yeah.
But getting into this particular episode, did it get good for you this episode, or like how did you feel about this particular episode? If you had to rate it from 1 to 10.
I mean, maybe like a 5. I don't. It wasn't. Nothing really happened.
Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah.
didn't get any real like. Oh, we found out Raquel's out of the facility. Okay. We found out that James got hippie. Okay. These are all things we found out last summer. I mean, the most interesting thing was James and Sandoval at the end of the episode where you see them finally have their sit down, but
Yeah.
it just nothing really happened. I'm looking forward to going to Wolf though. I want to go to Lake Tahoe to dine at Wolf.
Okay. What are your thoughts on this whole James and hippie situation? And because that sidebar, at first I was sort of like, Allie, you're not bringing a lot. You seem maybe too regular and normal for this cast of characters, but she came in hot in this episode. If anything, for me, she was sort of like the MVP of the episode because I was sort of like these little snippy comments about if Rachel can go from Rachel to Raquel, well, hippie can go from Graham to hippie. I was like, I'm watching you. But what are your thoughts on this whole situation of Graham Cracker, the dog situation? Because a lot of, Rachel had her stance on what happened with Graham Cracker, Hippie, can't keep up with these names. And James and LVP have their own story. For me, it's giving me Lucy Juicy Apple Coochie.
Yes, all the coochie. I think with listen, it doesn't look good. Rachel is in her facility. Her mom doesn't sound like I mean, I have a lot of feelings about that situation with the dog, having 2 dogs myself and having 2 puppies and like having to train them and, work on behavior and whatnot. And my dogs also are half Labradoodle. So, or sorry, Golden Doodle. So they are the type of dog that Graham is. And you do need to keep them active. And listen, I can say my dogs are both a year old and we live in downtown LA. We live in an apartment building. So that's not easy with 2 giant dogs. That Rachel, who has a yard and a family and all these other things, like if I can do it by myself with 2 big dogs, 2 big golden doodles, then there's no reason she couldn't do it with the smaller one. But it sounds like there were behavioral issues that weren't addressed early on. And it was just easier to get rid of the dog rather than to train the dog. And I'm glad that Hippie has found a home back with James. I'm glad that Lisa Vanderpump was able to get the dog into better hands. And, at the end of the day, as long as the dog is good, and from what we've heard, the dog seems to be doing much better. I just don't think, listen, it was a dog that they gave to her as a graduation gift that I just don't think, Rachel has the lights on sometimes, but nobody's ever home.
Oh, damn. Here's the thing, though. The reason why I say it's giving me Lucy Juicy Apple Coochie, because at least in this episode, it felt performative. It felt performative from James's side, and then LVP, darling, I'm going to make sure that the dog makes it to Lake Tahoe so it can film its scene. And I was just sort of like, it felt like they were trying to spin some sort of narrative about the dog. I don't know if I 100%.
She got rid of the dog. Good. Drag her.
Oh, damn.
I know everyone's like, oh, it's a storyline and Lisa's trying to push this story. Good. They should. She ditched her dog. Drag her.
She went to rehab or a wellness facility.
Drag her the way she dragged her coochie all around Ariana's house. Okay. How many F's do I give? 0, 0, none, not 1. Don't abandon your dog. Either, be a responsible dog owner or try to find it a good home. And I think Lisa, does Lisa know how to produce a show? Yeah, she's been on reality television for a very long time.
Yes.
But I also do think Lisa cares about animals. And I think when Lisa has an opportunity to drag somebody that is not properly caring for their pet, then yeah, let Lisa be a savior.
Okay. All right. Look. All right, James. Not you, of course. All right. So the other storyline that we see throughout this episode of Vanderpump Rules, we have, of course, they're planning this trip to go to Lake Tahoe. Of course, it's going to be used as a platform to promote Wolf. That's coming, another LVP restaurant that's coming to Lake Tahoe. So Sheena, her storyline this season is that she's struggling. And I know you're friends with Sheena, so maybe you can give us a little bit more insight. A little more insight in regards to, because I feel like, I know some people will say, oh, it's a storyline, but at the same time, it's real. And we don't get a lot of real on reality television anymore. And I don't know how I feel necessarily about how Brock is handling it, but at the same time, I kind of understand where he's coming from. I think he wants to have a babysitter there so that he can go back to enjoying his life with his wife. And he also doesn't want his mother-in-law around all the time. What are your thoughts on that whole situation and them arguing in public? Why are we doing this in the store?
You're doing it because there are cameras there. Come on, Sheena. You've done this long enough. All right. But I think I get Brock's side of things. I think Brock's like, if we are going to find a sitter, we need to take baby steps to get there. Like, you can't just always rely on your mom. Listen, I'm more of like, listen, if mom wants to come and watch the baby, that's free labor. Let her do it. But if they want to find a sitter, and I can understand how having, your partner's mother in the house all the time can be a little stressful or, just not an ideal situation. So I can understand when he's like, all right, we need to get rid of your mom. I've had enough of her. And I think that, Sheena's just having a little bit of separation anxiety, and she needs to learn how to let go a little bit more. And I think Brock has been very patient with her, but I think he needs to stretch his patience just a little bit longer.
A little bit longer. I mean, look, she opened me up to a term I didn't even realize existed, postpartum OCD. And I was like, oh, I never thought about that. But I've heard of mothers struggling with leaving their children before. I just never realized that there was like a whole thing, like a whole term about it. So I appreciate her sharing it this season, because for me, like, she's the only one that really has like a real something personal going on
Yeah.
outside of Tom
You don't,
Sandoval.
you don't think the sandwich shop is a riveting storyline?
Literally in this episode, them talking about it and them refusing to go film in Lake Tahoe, I was like, TikTok, your job is in jeopardy, ladies. Unless you don't want to be, because you said that Ariana is not really interested in being on television. So I'm like, all right, so nice knowing you, Ariana. You have so many other opportunities now.
Yeah.
But all right. All right. Anyways, but Tom Sandoval. So Tom Sandoval, the entire season, of course, the producers are going to focus on him trying to get integrated back into the group. And before they even go on this trip to Lake Tahoe, he's talking to Tom Schwartz about this, and he's talking about the whole name change of Raquel. Here's the thing. I don't know if you noticed this, and I don't know if this is true, but I suspect he wants to make the cameras and maybe Schwartz believe that he's in communication with Raquel, because from what we've heard at that particular point, he wasn't in communication with Raquel. So he's trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, I kind of knew about that. The name change was coming, and yeah, and now, she's out of the wellness facility. Like, what's your thoughts on Tom's relationship with Raquel, or him trying to continue a relationship with Raquel, like an actual romantic relationship?
I mean, I know that this is like a hot take, but I think he really was into her. I think he really thought, like, we blew up our lives. And I think I kind of agree with that. I'm like, you blew up your lives. Like, you might as well just go all in at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think he really believed that there was some hope for them. And she is clearly, just not interested in being with him anymore. I don't know how good that wellness facility did her, but,
Have you listened to our podcast?
why?
No,
No,
I've seen clips.
I've seen
hard.
I've seen clips and I've heard clips. Listen, I tried to listen to the first episode, and she doesn't know what she's doing, and she just has a bunch of producers that don't know what she's doing either. Like, I don't get the point of the podcast. I don't get why every week she wants to watch Vanderpump Rules and recap it and respond to it when she's like, this was such a toxic environment. Like, why are you like, go frolic in the meadows like Bambi? Like, I don't understand what she's doing,
Not Bambi. Well, look, in all fairness, all of this entire cast have been making podcasts and making so much money off of this situation.
Daryl.
I even got a little something, but I love that send it to Daryl moment. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lala. That was hilarious. But yeah, so I feel like she has a right. She has a right. Am I going to listen to it? Hell no. I could barely listen to her on this show.
Well, I also have a right to do crack cocaine, but I'm not gonna. Like, just because you have a right to do something doesn't mean it's the right decision for you to make.
We will get to the crack of it all in a second, sir. Hey, Andy.
Just because we have the right doesn't mean we need to exercise that right. And my thing is, it's like, if your priority is your mental health, then get away from all of this world, but that's clearly not her priority, which we learned in the New York Times article as well, that they revealed that not only did Raquel want more money to return to Vanderpump Rules, but she also wanted Bravo to give her a development deal in order to return develop. Can you imagine, like, we're listening to her podcast. Can you imagine what her development deal would have looked like? Like, what would she have been developing? More macaroni? Art, go back to the facility.
Here's the thing, though. Speaking as an entrepreneur, because I know you're an entrepreneur.
Fair.
Speaking as an entrepreneur, if someone offers you a bag of money or an opportunity, are you not going to take it?
Yes, but as an entrepreneur, you also have to think of your brand. And what is my brand? And think of Bethany Frankel. Let's be real, Kempire. Let's be honest.
She doesn't have a brand, though.
That's what I think. That's what I mean. Build a brand for yourself so that we understand who you are and what you are. Because right now you're saying my priority is mental health. My priority is to get away from all of this. But then you're developing a podcast. You're doing a podcast that this is all you talk about a year later after this scandal. Like, we're over this. Like, let's move forward. Let's find a way to build a brand moving forward, but like, I don't understand who she is or what she is. And I don't understand what the point of this facility was or what it did for her, other than make her this perpetual victim that can't take accountability for her own actions.
I'll give her credit though, because she could have been like any of these folks and came back and she probably would have been making a ton of money, maybe not as much as she wanted, but she chose not to. And that takes a lot. That takes a lot, especially for this crowd of characters that are just clutching for relevancy. I on one side, I'm like, you decided not to do that? Okay.
That's a very polite way of saying she fumbled the ball.
Oh, you know what? All
You
right.
know she's not making much money off of this podcast because nobody's listening to it.
Oh, damn. Well, people
Listen,
are.
She
People-
should have come back to the show. If that was a priority, I think she should listen. When Kristen Doty went through it, when Jax went through it, when James went through it, when Stassi went through it, they all took their beating, they took it on the chin, and they kept it moving. You know what I mean?
But
You're bad at it.
Remember, she talked about her mental health. Do you suggest someone that might be struggling mentally come back on a show where she might have to deal with something like that?
No, but if that was really a concern, then why were you trying to negotiate a development deal? If this network is so bad and this environment is so toxic, Bethany Frankel, with your reality reckoning, if it's that bad, then why are you in negotiations? I mean, it's not so much about the mental health, it's about the paycheck. And if they're willing to pay you enough, you're like, yes, drag my mental health.
Is she in these negotiations, or is her team or her parents?
Either way, whoever it is, she's got some sort of say in it, and she had a say in deciding to do this podcast. Rachel Goes Rogue. Great. Stay rogue. We're good.
Is that the name of it?
Rachel Goes Rogue. Yeah, it sounds like a porno.
You can see how invested I am in this. Why am I defending Rachel right now? Moving on. Look, I have to play devil's advocate, okay?
I love that you play devil's advocate. I do. I love to play devil's advocate myself. You know, I often do that with Erica Jane.
Oh, she's back in the headlines. Okay. We will get back to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in just a second. You did have an interview with Erica this season, so be sure to check that out as well. For sidebar, how was that experience?
Great. It was great. Listen, I've become friendly with her. We had a great time taping the podcast. Like it was, I had a great time taping that interview.
Did she come across differently than you originally thought? Like in person?
Well, I had met her a few times prior to interviewing her. I've met her in person before. Yeah, I'd gone to her Vegas residency. Yeah, I'd become friendly with her, and that's why I was grateful that she was willing to kind of let her guard down a little bit and sit down. I mean, she hasn't given a full 1 hour sit down interview to anyone else, where we really got into the marriage and the legalities and whatnot. So, I was just grateful that she was willing to come in and be open.
Yeah. It was a good interview. I saw it. Like I said, I don't get an opportunity to watch a lot of interviews, but I saw that one. I thought that was really, really good. For those that may have missed it, be sure to check that out on No Filter with Zack Peter. That is our special guest today for a bunch of pop topics, along with Vanderpump Rules. Tom Sandoval, he got really emotional because they said hello to him in the airport. Hey, they said hello to him. He got emotional about that. Like, how are you feeling about Tom this season and how he's playing this situation? Do you think he's playing it right, or you think that he could play it better?
Oh, he can play it much better. I mean, I was starting to feel for him a little bit in these past couple of episodes because it's like, all right, I get it. We beat him up, and now his mental health, whatever. And I didn't but I didn't like how Ariana was really kind of she had this she's a little bitter. And listen, she's allowed and entitled to be, and understandably after what she went through. And I don't think she's given herself the proper time and space to heal. She's still living with him. She jumped into a relationship 10 days after breaking up with him. That
was it literally 10 days?
I think it was 10 or 11 days. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's not enough time. Ariana, come on, Disaster Daters. That's not enough time to properly grieve or heal. So I understand where there's still a lot of pain and it's coming across as anger and, resentment or bitterness. And so it's maybe not the most palatable for the audience. And so I think that's where people were starting to lean more on Sandoval's side. But then we see him in Tahoe and he's banging the wall, and the way he would bang Raquel, and he's, calling out Lala and calling out James and dragging Scandival. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're not taking accountability. You are continuing to lean into this. Now you think you're a victim in this too. And you need to understand that it's not so much that you're a victim, but that there are consequences that come with your actions.
Yeah. And do you feel like the group do you feel as if the group didn't go too far or they went too far during the whole, upheaval of Scandal?
I mean,
Because that's
it
one of his
was
biggest gripes in this season. He's like, they were, he said he told Brock in this episode, I didn't have malicious intent, which could be, debated. And he feels as if the group they had malicious intent in all that they were doing and saying on podcasts and making merch and things like that.
listen, good for them. Let them capitalize off of the scandal. He did too. He was doing Special Forces and he did The Masked Singer, and he was going on tour. He was pushing those 2-for-1 ticket sales. And so I actually just saw him last night at Schwartz and Sandy's. Now that I remember, I didn't realize he was going to be there. Schwartz was, I guess, he was hosting like a watch party for Vanderpump. So I went last night with Josh Sutton's former assistant.
We love Josh here. We were asking about Josh a few weeks ago.
I know. He's coming over tonight. And so we went last night and we saw Schwartz, and then there were 2 other people there that I walked over to say goodbye to before we were leaving. And there was a guy there that looked kind of like Sandoval, but he was like standing in the corner with the hat on. And then as I was saying bye to them, he's like, hi. And I was like, oh, hi. And it was just like, it was so awkward because I was like, wait, you're out like in public right now? You're at Schwartz and Sandy's at a Vanderpump Rules watch party after that like disaster of a New York Times interview. Like, this is a choice.
Yeah. How is business at Schwartz and Sandy's? Is it better now?
It was popping. Last night it was popping. I mean, but again, when Schwartz is going to be there and he's behind the bar and he's serving up shots and all that stuff, he's trying to make it stay busy, and he's doing it.
And look, and I've said that about this cast of characters. I don't really judge any of them for trying to profit off of the situation. Bravo, NBC Universal, they're all profiting 10 times more than any of these characters on here. And like Bethany said, with this reality TV reckoning, none of them are going to make a coin off of this after they're off of the show. So I'm like, make your money while you can.
Yeah, that's why. Sell your merch, put your down payments for your house, go on The Masked Singer and Dancing with the Stars and Special Forces. Like, go and Stars on Mars. Go do all of that. Make your bank, collect your check, and do what you like. Bethany, speaking of, she's killing it with that reality reckoning, by the way. But like Bethany was just on her podcast and she's just like, I'm making the most money that I've ever made 4 times, not just 3 times, but 4 times. Count that 1, 2, 3, 4 B's. Be real. She is talking about how she's making all this money off of her podcast that's called RHOBH, which she has based off of the platform that she built from Housewives. So it's like, these are great opportunities that you have to utilize because listen, yeah, the network is going to discard you when they're done with you, but that's kind of the exchange that But if you continue to build off of that, build businesses, open restaurants, whatever you want to do, invest in property, like now is your time to really lean into all of that. And I think Rachel's just bitter because she didn't, and now it's a little late,
Yeah.
But she's always been a little late to the game.
Poor thing. I think she will be fine. Doesn't she come from money?
I think her parents, yeah, she's fine.
Shout out to everyone that's joining us for our mix of topics here with our special guest, Zack Peter. We're also talking about Vanderpump Rules. We're going to get into some Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Miami news as well, and some lawsuits. Mama Ali, yes, please do some timestamps for today's Alive so that, we help our replay crew as well. All right. Last but definitely not least, the Tom Sandoval and James Kennedy conversation. What was your initial reaction to this conversation? They even did some flashbacks. So when these two are getting along, James looks up to Tom Sandoval like a big brother.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get it. Sandoval's a lot older than him, but like, I understand that he was like hurt by Sandoval and it was the girl. Like, here's the thing is it's just like, we've had these conversations all last summer. Like, I get why people are a little fatigued with it this year. I get it. Like, I get that the pain is there and he just wants Sandoval to apologize. And it seemed like this was the first time we really see Sandoval be like, sorry. You know, like, you're right. I really did hurt you. I didn't think about how this hurt you. I didn't think about how this was going to affect you.
Yeah.
And I think James really did look up to Sandoval and, you know, was hurt by him. That's the thing is like people are like, oh, everyone's doing this for a storyline or for the reality show. But it's like, but these people outside of a lot of reality shows, these people had genuine relationships and friendships. They would hang out all the time off camera on the off season. They've known each other and have a history of years prior to being on Vanderpump Rules that it's like, I understand that pain being real. I understand Sheena being like, I do feel conflicted because I've known Sandoval for, you know, well over a decade and we've been friends for all these years. And my relationship with Sandoval was stronger than my relationship with Ariana was originally. And she does feel conflicted and she does feel betrayed by Sandoval and betrayed by Rachel. So I get, you know, I get James's the pain that he's, you know, trying to express. I wish he would express it with a little less coke in his system, but you know, he's doing the best he can.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Wow. Well, I mean, when you paint it like that, yes, and that's one of the things that we don't see on a lot of these other, especially like Real Housewives. A lot of these housewives don't hang out with each other outside of the show. It's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you since we last filmed. So that is a difference, and maybe that's why it works on Vanderpump Rules. I don't know if it's working anymore with this cast of you know, characters. I will call them. But it seems as if not James, Tom is trying to have sort of this sort of redemption season, very much like what I've been saying about Erica Jane on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. He's trying to have a redemption season, but do you think that it's too soon for him to have a redemption season? Maybe he needs to wait till next season.
No, I think he could have very likely had his redemption season. Listen, Ariana's not doing any favors in terms of her likability this season. That I think had he just come in a little more humble, because he even says that this episode, she's like, what, they all want me to come in here and grovel? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. They hurt me. They did things too. We need to both work on these relationships. And it's like, dude, take a beat and just be like, I screwed up. Let me grovel a little bit, because also at the end of the day, not only are my friendships on the line, which I would assume are important to him, but his job's on the line. Like, if he can't mesh with the group, they're going to ship him off like Diana Jenkins. You know what I mean? And he's not going to get to come back.
Well, look, I think what you said before, that this should have been like their last hurrah at the rodeo, at least. Of course, Bravo's not going to have any of that, but maybe next season. So, I mean, it's only episode 5, but I'm kind of already over it. That's why I was like, do you mind if we talk about some other stuff? Just because. Look, plus, also, I like to pick your brain on pop culture because you cover that on your podcast as well. Let's move on from Vanderpump Rules and get into some hot topics that I wanted to talk about with you. Real Housewives of Miami. Tonight we will see part 1 of the reunion. How have you been feeling about their season overall?
It's been good. I love Miami. I think, you know, I like all of these ladies. I'm looking forward to the reunion. Hate Julia's outfit, but like, you know, they're doing the damn thing.
Wow, Julia, I see, was coming for what's his name? Marcus. I saw Queens of Bravo had posted something that she had said. Based off of what we saw in the reunion, not trailer, but just like sneak peeks of tonight's episode, we see Alexia talking about, you know, her moving out and what Adriana was saying about her, you know, she's having financial issues. And she's saying, no, that's not it. I've been very open about, you know, I was renting the other apartment. She's still painting the picture as if it's just because the landlord sold the place. We also have this battle between Larsa and Kiki. Once good friends are now fighting. What's your reaction to some of the clips that you may have seen from this reunion?
I love Kiki. Kiki's one of my favorites. She needs a mojito. Kiki is ruthless and toothless, and she'll come for you. Larsa's just a little bit of a dirty fighter, but I like that Kiki holds her ground. It doesn't matter if it's Larsa or Lisa. Like, Kiki will stand firm in where she's at, and I like that she's calling out Larsa, because I think Larsa needs a little self-reflection, you know?
Most definitely. Look, and based off the trailer, when she was trying to come for Kiki, I was just like, it's not landing. It's not landing, Larsa. And I saw that Gertie was also chiming in saying, you're accusing Kiki of being one way in confessionals, and this is what Gertie is accusing Larsa as well of. What were your reactions to what happened and transpired between Larsa and Gertie this season?
That was probably the most heartbreaking because you can see like Gertie was really going through it this season with the
Yeah.
cancer. And she trusted Larsa and she thought that Larsa was her friend, and Larsa is clearly not her friend. And like, listen, Larsa fumbled the ball. She screwed up and she should have just been like, listen, I thought that I was coming from a good place, but if you think that I was gossiping or talking about, or spreading your medical business without your permission, I understand how that was wrong. And like, again, just a little accountability can go a long way.
Yeah.
Just, do the Ramona Singer and apologize, new beginnings, and let's all move on.
All right. All right. What are your thoughts on Adriana accusing Alexia of having financial issues? Do you think that the financial issues are real, or is Adriana reaching because she wants a mojito?
Um, Adriana is a mess, and I'm here for it. I think listen, where there's smoke, there's fire, and I kind of feel like there may be something a brewing with Todd that maybe Alexia is not even fully privy to.
Oh, like sort of like the Teresa of it all from Real Housewives of New Jersey?
Probably. I mean, I think there's something there. If there's chatter and Adriana wants to push that, I think there's something there, and I think it's likely going to be, if and when this comes out, I think it's going to blindside Alexia.
Okay. All right. We always gotta promote the other side of the unpopular opinion. Frankie says, unpopular opinion. I like Rachel Goes Rhodes podcast. It sheds light on Vanderpump Rules, Scandal, and this season too. Okay.
Oh, good. I'm
All
glad
right.
she has a fan.
You know what? Get out of here. All right. Moving
She
on.
needs all the fans she can get.
Look, here's the thing though. You would be surprised. Anything related to Vanderpump Rules, and she's once a star and she was in the middle of all of this, please understand she's still getting numbers.
That's a stretch.
Okay. She's getting numbers better than some folks we know. I'm just saying. Come on. Just
That's
saying.
true. That's true.
Just saying. All right. Guys, if you're just joining us, we have a special guest here today. No Filter's host, No Filter with Zack Peter, is here. For more information on Zack, his podcast, multiple podcasts, and other things, everything Zack Peter will be available in the description of this video and audio. So, all right. So, okay, moving on from there, we have another reunion to talk about tonight, and that is the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion. The ladies are fighting. The Fox Force flunkies are fighting. It seems as if it seems like there is some beef brewing between Kyle Richards and Dorit, and it looks like it stems from last year's reunion. What are your thoughts on this beef that's brewing between Dorit and Kyle?
I mean, I get it. I get that Dorit is hurt because, like, Kyle, when she went on, even if let's say they're not that close, right? As Kyle's trying to say, at least on the show, we're pretending that we're close. Like, we're trying to sell the audience that we have this friendship. So for Kyle to then go on her Amazon Live and be like, Dorit's exaggerating the depth of our friendship and we're not really that close or not as close as she was claiming. Like, I would be so hurt if any of my fans, if any of my friends went like on a public platform, like if Kempire, you went and you're like, I don't even know Zack. We're not even that close. I'd be like, the audacity. So I get Dorit feeling a little hurt by that, especially because Kyle doesn't have many allies left on that cast. So for her to isolate herself from Dorit too,
Yeah.
I get, Dorit being, upset about that and being like, well, you know what, if we're not that close and we're only friends on the show, then the only place to hash this out is not behind the scenes, but it's at the reunion. Let's hash this out.
And did you get to see the text message that Kyle sent to Dorit? I read that and I was like, God, Kyle sounds like the most draining friend. That was a lot.
It was so long.
Yeah, so long. So long. Here's the thing. Like, I used to like Kyle in the early seasons, but the last few seasons, she's really been a struggle to like. And even this clip that we see when they hash out some of their issues between Kyle and Dorit, I can't. And look, I'm team Kempire all day, every day. I don't know these people. However, if I have to pick a team here, I'm going to pick Dorit because to me, Dorit sounds logical. You are mad at Dorit because of something that transpired from last reunion. So why didn't you figure any of those things out within the time frame? You've been hanging out with her on the show filming.
Yeah, like why, if this really is the issue that you have with Dorit, then it's like, then hash that out. Don't wait until it's time to film the reunion and you're in the hot seat now and you're like, let's hash this out off camera after we film the reunion, it's like, no, I get Dorit's side of being like, no, it's game time. Like now,
Even
like
Erica thought that. Erica's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this text sounds manipulative.
yeah.
Oh, the Fox Force flunkies have fallen officially. Oh, damn. The other beef that's brewing this season, how did you feel about 8.5? I mean, Anne Marie.
I always say we need at least like a good 2 to 3 seasons and to fully bake an opinion about a housewife, because they're gonna have a good season, they're gonna have a bad season, and then they're gonna kind of balance out. I was annoyed with all of her esophagus talk. Like after a while, I'm like, but I mean, she's apologized since then. I didn't hate her as much as other people are really disliking her, but I also didn't really hate Diana Jenkins. Like, I feel like we need to like give these housewives more than a season. Let's really see what we get from them. Yeah, I think we could. I mean, listen, we've given Krista what 3 seasons, and girl still can't bring it. And it's just like,
Look, I mean, I call it cricket here. However, if I had to pick in this fight that they're having, I'm leaning more towards Crystal because literally we see on camera 8.5 lie about the eating disorder conversation. It's just like, oh, she talks about your eating disorder when it was clearly Anne Marie. So Anne Marie, we're not going to read all of this, but you guys can look, take a screenshot. Look, take a screenshot. Let me take off the banner so you guys can see what Dorito said. Dorit's like, ooh. So she has keys to a clear conscience. So she has all these different points. Mind you, in the clip, Zach, she doesn't want to engage. She's like, I'm not going to do this because Crystal understands this is her 3rd reunion, that you have to go back and forth. It's the Super Bowl. You're auditioning for your next season. So Crystal is ready to go back and forth. And 8.5 is like, I'm not going to do this with you. So she's not gonna argue. She's not going to fight with Crystal in regards to this. What is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the beef between Crystal's stance? Like, what are your thoughts on Crystal's stance in regards to her issues with 8.5 and the title misinformation and whatnot?
I mean, I actually am not on Crystal's side with that whole argument. And I think even at the reunion, and I even understand Anne Marie being like, I'm not going to do this over talking each other thing with you. Because it seems like every time Anne Marie's trying to make a point, Crystal just raises her voice and speaks up louder. And I'm like, you had your chance. You've had 3 seasons on this show. Like, I get it. You're trying to like save your job at this point, but it's like, we're not interested in, she's been very condescending to the other women. I do believe the things that Anne Marie said about Crystal. We even see the editors where Crystal's like, she told me that these women are uneducated. And Crystal's like, I would never say that. And then we roll back to the confessional clip from 2 years ago where we see her say that these women are uneducated. So there are also, these inconsistencies in Crystal's stuff as well. And I think Crystal, which we've learned for the past 2 seasons, doesn't necessarily live in the objective truth. She lives in her truth, and her truth is her reality. And that's the only reality that works in her head. And we've seen that time and time again with Crystal, with her accusing Sutton of violating her, with her saying that Sutton said something so dark, but then she won't reveal what it is. And then we get to the reunion and she's just like, well, that's how I perceived it. I perceived it as something very dark. So we've seen these things with Crystal as well. That I understand. And when it comes to the anesthetist versus anesthesiologist, like, I also feel, I don't think that Anne Marie was intentionally trying to lead people to believe that she was a doctor and not a nurse. I think maybe that's how Crystal perceived it. And I think Anne Marie talking about it was more to kind of clarify, what she was saying. Whereas Crystal, I think, is just trying to muddy the waters. But it was interesting that in Anne Marie's very long Instagram post, she kind of alludes to the fact that Crystal reveals that she, was dragging this out for the sake of a storyline, and that Crystal has apologized to her, but this is all off camera. And she's like, off camera, Crystal tells me one thing, but on camera, Crystal keeps wanting to fight with me about being a nurse.
Well, here's the thing. She went on a whole situation, 8.5, in regards to the difference, and she really made it a battle between nurses and doctors. And I was just like, let's not do that. That's not what this fight is even about. But look, how do you feel about the cast? Do you want this entire cast to return based on what you said? It sounds like you do. Well, maybe not Crystal.
I don't love this I mean, we can definitely get rid of Crystal. Yeah, I'm not the thing with this cast and what I think made this season struggle is there's no gel, there's no chemistry, you know? Whereas,
Mm.
like, listen, I know some people didn't like the Fox Force 5, but at least we knew they were real friends. And I think,
Were
I mean,
they?
listen, I think, well, I mean, their friendships have still maintained, you know, they still, I mean, some of them have been fractured in recent years, but like, I believe that they were still like real friendships where they would see each other and hang out outside of the show. Whereas it's like, I just don't think like we know that like Garcelle and Kyle are not friends. Crystal and Kyle are not friends. Erica and Sutton, you know, even though they've continued to try, like they're not like these women are not genuinely interested in each other's lives. I don't think
Mm.
that they care about each other. So to me, I was just like, it didn't really land, you know? I don't know how they get back on track, but you can just tell these women don't really like each other and they're all just coworkers at this point.
Yeah. Guys, if you're just joining us, we have our special guest, Zack Peter, here. And if you are new here, this is what we love. We love when people have a difference of opinion because we welcome that here. We don't, say you can't have that opinion just because I think one way. We love it. As long as you share it like this. Like you share it like this. Zack, I'm gonna hold you a little bit longer if you can.
Yeah.
All right. Julie has a question. She says, I've been hearing that Kathy Hilton is coming on RHBH reunion, which we know, to help Kyle come out with Morgan. What's your take also, Zack? Miami is great. What's your take on that's the reason why we're gonna get Kathy this season?
I don't know why Kathy's at the reunion, to be honest. I'm very genuinely confused as to why we decided to bring Kathy into the mix.
Yeah.
'Cause she wasn't on this season at all.
Yeah.
So, listen, fun. I mean, I've heard about Kathy's role when she comes on the show and why they kind of have her engaged in the reunion.
Mhm.
Again, I think maybe they just needed additional filler content. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm confused as to why she's there, but I don't think she's there to help Kyle
come
come
out.
out. But what a character arc, right? Because last season she was accused of using a homophobic slur, and now what? She's coming out to help her sister come out of the closet. She's like, hi, gay. I love gay.
That is a good point. Well, here's the thing.
Here's my rainbow flag.
I wish we would have gotten Kathy during the season because she was such a big part of Kyle's storyline throughout the season. So it would have been nice to see a conversation be had before we get to the reunion. Sidebar: we were both in the premiere and the season finale. Congrats to both of us. Yeah, and last year's season finale. But yeah, I was hoping maybe during the finale that we would get some sort of inkling as to why Kathy makes an appearance. But I guess we'll have to wait and see why she's making this appearance. I mean, the way everything ended last season, not great. Sidebar: did we even get a group shot? We probably didn't get a group shot of the reunion because of Sutton's medical emergency, right?
Yeah, there is a group photo that leaked online that doesn't have Garcelle or Sutton in it, but it was again because Sutton
Okay.
passed out and
All right.
Garcelle went with her to the hospital. So I don't think they'll release that full cast photo because there are two of them that are missing. I mean, I think just have the full cast and then like on the side have like Sutton and Garcelle like in the ambulance being like, hey.
Well, here's the thing. I don't understand why at this point they don't do a group shot at the very beginning.
That would be smarter.
You guys are new. Y'all been doing this for a very long time.
That would be a lot smarter.
Just saying, just so that you have it. I get people probably aren't getting along, but sometimes even at the end of the reunion, people still aren't getting along. So who cares? Let me just say thank you, Joe. Thank you for the super chat. Joe says Crystal didn't say the ladies were uneducated on it or unintelligent. She said the ladies are savvy and some are not highly educated. Use the words correctly. I believe she said all of it. Look, I believe she said all of it. She has always sort of had this, holier than thou attitude towards the women. And I'm okay with it. Look, this is Beverly Hills. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Since we're talking about Beverly Hills, say again.
Bring back Teddy.
Are you serious?
It'll mix things up.
No, it's not going to mix anything up. That's how boring she is. No, do not bring back Teddy. Don't even think about it, production. Don't listen to him. Maybe other people, but no, definitely not Teddy. Definitely not Teddy. But look, you have a right to your opinion. I just disagree. Anyways, they need to bring back this woman. This would be fantastic.
Oh, Michael Darby.
Yeah. Is that Michael Darby or is that a woman that Juan Dixon was holding hands with in Georgetown? Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And she resembles Karen Huger.
Yes. Come on. Look. I just happen to have these still. Look, I just happen to have these at the ready. Okay. Just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Since we're talking about Beverly Hills, we have to talk about Surviving Andy Cohen, the new documentary that's coming out by 50 Cent. Did you hear about it?
Fofty? Yeah.
Oh, Andy. Okay, let's talk about what's been coming out in regards to Andy Cohen. So we know that Brandi has been under fire because of something that happened during the filming of Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip in Morocco. And Caroline Manzo suing the network production and anyone that will listen. Now, Brandi, she hasn't filed a lawsuit, but her attorney has been in contact with Bravo and has accused Andy Cohen of sexual harassment. All right. She says that Andy reached out to her to have a threesome with another Bravo star. All right. Well, since then, because we've talked about this before, for those that are just joining us, we've talked about this already. So if you want the full story, go check back the other videos. Well, Brandi, first of all, Andy admitted to it. He said this in a tweet. Andy, I know you blocked me, but I still get all the tweets. Yay. Andy says the video shows Kate Chastain and I very clearly joking to Brandi. It was absolutely meant in jest, and Brandi's response clearly communicated she was in on the joke. That said, it was totally inappropriate, and I apologize. All right. So Brandi, this is like, he made a tweet to his public, not me. Brandi says, I have not received a personal apology from anyone. I saw an apology that Andy posted to his fans for his mistreatment of me and inappropriateness. Well, since all of this played out, because we talked about this on Tuesday Takeover, Brandi and the situation with Andy, allegedly, we'll say allegedly because we don't know, we weren't there, but it's being exposed as to what really went down. So according to the Daily Mail, they said, according to sources who have seen the video, Andy Cohen started the message by addressing the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills alum, saying, "Hey, Brandi." Wait, I got a little huskier in my voice. Hey, Brandi, what's up, girl? We are just thinking about you. So yeah, me and Kate are gonna have some hot sex and wanted to know if you wanted to watch. A little menage a trois. Both Cohen and Chastain, Kate Chastain from Below Deck, were then heard laughing, with the latter adding, "Yeah." Cohen continued, hold on, let me take this banner down. Cohen continued, "So FaceTime us back. Okay, girl, I love you." Chastain added, "Love you, B." Glanville is then said to have messaged back, "I will bring my hot dildor." I'll just call it a dildor. We'll call it a dildor. Okay, what is your reaction to this story? Brandi is fit to be tied in regards to Andy Cohen and his abuse of his employees.
First of all, they're not his employee. Like, this is where really dense people need to get this through their head. Andy Cohen does not sign their paychecks. Okay. They are both employed by NBC. NBC is the boss. Does Andy Cohen have a role that can be higher than some of these ladies? Yes, absolutely. But for the most part, they're colleagues at this point. And Andy Cohen, he's more of a figurehead rather than a boss, because he's not doing any of the stuff that he was doing years ago, right? Like, he's more of just like the mascot of Bravo. As much as people want to be like, oh yeah, he's the ultimate boss at Bravo. He doesn't even work for Bravo anymore. Outside of being a host at Watch What Happens Live. But so I don't like that this has become more of a conversation about sexual harassment, because I believe sexual harassment is very real, and there are people that do have positions of power that are abusing that and taking advantage of people. I don't feel like that's the situation in this case. What I do think is happening, though, is Brandi Glanville is trying to make a statement. She's trying to show that anybody can take something cheeky and done lightly in jest and consider it sexual harassment and file a lawsuit as a result of it. And I think she's trying to make that point to show that what's happening with Caroline Manzo is also not fully is not the full story. Because it's like, come on, when we really look at the details of this, and I know people are like, well, Andy still shouldn't have sent her that text message. It was inappropriate. Yes, it was inappropriate. Yes, we can all agree it was inappropriate. He apologized for that. I'm sure he'll get a slap on the hand. But at the end of the day, you can tell that that relationship that they have, that banter that they have, is consensual, and they are two colleagues. Like, you do have to be careful, and you do have to watch, yourself in a work environment, because things like this can always come back to bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
But I think, she was just trying to make a point, rather than, that's why there's not a lawsuit that's actually been filed.
No.
Maybe she is trying to shake them down for a little bit of money, but like, at this point, her relationship with the network has been completely burned. And as the Daily Mail reported, like, NBC has no interest in working with her moving forward. So I don't think that Andy Cohen, who is a very clearly gold star gay man, was having any interest in having sex with Kate Chastain. He says that he's a gold star, which means he's never had sex with a woman. And I believe that. Yeah.
Well,
so
he has said in past interviews his fantasy is to sleep with a woman. He has said that.
So is mine, but that doesn't mean I'm actively trying to. I wouldn't mind sleeping. I would totally sleep with a woman.
Like that. I'm sorry, ladies. Sorry.
I would absolutely listen if the right opportunity presented itself. I wouldn't be against it.
Really?
I absolutely
mean the right opportunity. Wait, I need to unpack this. Forget about them.
If the vibe is right and there's chemistry and there's, I mean, women are attractive, like,
of course, yes.
I mean, yeah, some of my favorite porn, I don't really like porn, but some of my favorite porn is like watching a dude go down on a chick. Listen, I like straight porn. But so back to Andy, my thing is, it's like, he's not actively trying to have sex with Kate Chastain or Brandi Glanville, and Kate and Brandi both know that, and Andy knows that. And Brandi being like, let me bring my Dumbledore with me and come join you guys, then clearly it's done in jest.
Here's the thing, especially as someone that has experience in sexual harassment and covering these things when it comes to employees. It doesn't matter if you're colleagues, because it can be deemed inappropriate. We also have to remember, he may not be involved necessarily directly in the hiring and firing of people over there. He has influence, and he is in a position of power. She is a subordinate to him. They know that. That's the dynamic that you see all of these housewives when they're around him. They're sort of like up to Andy. So there is already a dynamic. Do I think that Brandi has any credibility in regards to her behavior here and in the past in this particular situation? It's shaky. It's shaky. But this is why it's so important when you're in Andy's position to be appropriate at all times with your people. I get it, in entertainment, it gets a little foggy, but in this day and age, clear the fog. Fog. So I think it's important, because I don't want to paint the narrative just because they might be, colleagues, or it might be entertainment, that sending inappropriate text messages like that, even as she was like, yeah, because remember, her receiving this text message, even if they're considered talent, she still sees him, and a lot of people over there at Housewives see Andy as, oh, he's above us. He has influence on whether or not we're going to return, or if we're going to come back in some shape or form to other shows. She knows that. And they all sort of move in that fear of Andy Cohen, and if he likes you or doesn't like you. So I see where she's going with it. Does she have credibility? Well, that's up to her attorney and NBC if they're going to give her a settlement.
But I also don't think that she was, from that remark, I don't feel like she felt pressured or bullied or influenced or at risk of losing her job if she didn't engage in that. I think she willingly engaged in that. I think that there was absolutely consent based off of their interactions in the past, based off of the text exchange that they, were participating in, each of them. I mean, I agree with Andy. It's inappropriate. And when you are, even though he's not their absolute boss, he is at a higher level. And that goes for many people. I mean, if it was
he doesn't correct them when they refer to him as the boss either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it strokes his ego.
Of course. But that becomes a problem, because if he doesn't correct them, you're the boss. But if he doesn't correct you, they can still legally say, well, you wield a power there. You wield an influence. You might not be her direct boss or sign her checks. You still have a superiority over them.
Yes, but my issue with this whole thing with Brandi and Andy specifically is that this stuff really does happen. And there are cases where women feel, not even women, men as well, feel like they have to, there are people of power that abuse that, and people are put in uncomfortable situations. So I think for us to turn this, or not us specifically, but like with Brandi, to turn this into a media scandal for the sake of whether she's trying to be relevant or whether she's trying to look for a settlement, like whatever it is, she was not genuinely in fear of losing her job, because she continued to get jobs with the network after this. She continued to appear on Watch What Happens Live after this. She continued to have a friendly relationship with Andy after this. So I don't believe.
Is that because she's like, I'm going to play the game. I'm going to continue to, when he sends me inappropriate text, I'm going to respond.
She was addicted to fame. She's inappropriate. She was encouraged for being inappropriate. She wanted a paycheck, and she wanted more and she wanted more camera time. You know, she was very much interested in, you know, participating in everything that she was doing, which is why she continued to perform poorly on camera. I think, again, she's trying to make the point that anybody can pull any little infraction and turn it into a lawsuit based off of, you know, how they want to roll the dice that day. And I think the unfortunate part about that is it then diminishes and dilutes when real survivors want to step forward. Because look at, now here we are, and here somebody like myself is judging Brandi, and, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are being very critical of her online from what I've seen. That does put other people, you know, that makes them concerned about wanting to step forward, because they don't want to put themselves through that line of fire. They don't want to walk through the bushes and get scratched. And the thing is, we should absolutely believe when people want to come forward with real legitimate claims of sexual harassment. But when somebody like Brandi Glanville makes a media circus out of this, it's unfortunate, because it then does prevent people from actually coming forth when there is a legitimate situation.
Yeah. All right. I want to say thank you guys. If you're just joining us, we're here with Zack Peter for a mix of pop topics, along with our Vanderpump Rules weekly recap as well. If you're part of the replay crew, be sure to let us know your thoughts on anything that we talked about. But as always, we do not moderate adults, so play nicely in the comment section. Joe, thank you so much for another super chat. Joe says, congratulations on y'all being featured during the season finale. We know for sure that no, God, why are you so damn messy? Goodbye, Joe. Goodbye. Angelica, thank you so much for the super chat. Angelica says, if I were Caroline, I would have also sued Brandi. If she essayed Caroline, there should have been consequences against her. She probably like, what am I suing her for? I'm not going to get anything from her.
Which
Trish,
then
thank you so much for
motivation.
Samira, thank you so much for the super chat. Samira says, I agree with Zach. I think she was trying to make a point with the Caroline situation, and it's doing a disservice to real SA issues.
Yeah.
I love our community. We can have these conversations. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because we're having this conversation about Brandi Glanville and Andy Cohen. As I told you, 50 Cent, allegedly, is working on a documentary called Surviving Andy Cohen. I am being facetious, y'all. Please understand. Just for those that coming in, is he really? No, he is not. I'm playing. However, what we're not playing about is this new lawsuit, an actual lawsuit that Leah McSweeney, formerly of the Real Housewives of New York, has filed against Andy Cohen and the network. All right. First of all, his people have come out in regards to this. I just want to remind people, for those that do not know or have not heard of this story, People magazine writes this: Andy Cohen is being sued by former Real Housewives of New York City star Leah McSweeny. The civil lawsuit filed on Tuesday in the Southern District of New York named Cohen, Bravo Media, NBC Universal Media, Warner Brothers, a Discovery production company, Shed Media US, and producers John Paparazzo, Lisa Shannon, and Darren Ward. Within the 109-page complaint obtained by People, McSweeny claims the defendants established a rotted workplace culture where employees were pressured to consume alcohol. She also alleges that the defendants failed to maintain a safe working environment and accommodate her disabilities, including, quote, alcohol use disorder and mental health disorders. She continues, they said McSweeny added that she disclosed that she had broken 9 years of sobriety, but was sober by the time filming for season 12 of the show which began in 2019. Reps for Cohen, Bravo, Shed, and Warner Brothers did not immediately respond to People's request for comment, but They did. McSweeney further alleges that the producers knew she suffered from alcohol use disorder after she confided in them, but discriminated against that and other mental health disorders by, quote, intentionally planning scenarios intended to exacerbate her disabilities, all in efforts to create morbidly salacious reality television. So this is the part that's making headlines. In a later section of the complaint, McSweeney goes on to claim that Cohen, Andy Cohen, engages in cocaine use with housewives and other Bravo celebrities that he employs, and has a proclivity for cocaine use with his employees. I'm not even looking at your face right now. Oh, there we go. All right. Cohen tends to provide the housewives with whom he uses cocaine with more favorable treatments and edits. Cohen intentionally uses the drug with his employees to further promote a workplace culture that thrives off drug and alcohol abuse, which leads to failure to accommodate employees who are disabled and attempting to remain substance free. Cohen's preferred workplace environment, which is fueled with substances and illicit behavior, permeates every aspect of the defendant Bravo Productions. So, Deadline reported earlier today a rep for Cohen stating Tuesday that the claims against Andy are completely false. Completely false. So, with this news coming out, Zach, Leah posted on her social media. We're not going to read all of it. All right. I just want you guys can take a screenshot or pause the video so you can see the full, statement that she wrote on her Instagram. All right. This is slide 2. And now slide 3. All right. I also wanted to mention, where do I have it on here? I don't know if I have it on here. Brandi Glanville also chimed in on this.
Of course she did.
And she said this in the comments section. Let me just read what she said real quick. Where is it? I know I had it. Please hold. Because I want to read exactly what she said. Please hold. Hold on.
Brandi.
Here it is. She says, she puts clapping hands. Yay. We are not expendable. We are strong women and even stronger together. Time to take our power back. And she puts a star emoji. All right, Zach, that was a mouthful. That's what he said. What were your thoughts on this recent lawsuit from Leah McSweeney, formerly of the Real Housewives of New York?
I mean, I think Brandi and Leah, from what we've seen on their OnlyFans, are good at taking a mouthful. But I think, listen, this lawsuit, it's not about the pasta, Kempire, okay? It's not about the pasta. I think that when I first saw the headlines, and the headlines are all leading with Andy Cohen and giving his pasta to his favorite housewives, I was like, oh, this looks bad, right? Mm-hmm. And then I actually am looking through, the allegations, and a lot of them are hard to prove, right? How is she able to prove that he's providing pasta to these housewives and then giving them favorable edits as a result? Because who is she talking about? Teresa Giudice? Because Teresa Giudice has been dragged in the edits recently. Remember, we see her flipping off the camera and throwing a cup at the producers and storming off. Kyle Richards is one of the favorites, and she's kind of going through it in her edit this season. Nene hasn't been protected in her edits. Vicky can't even get a full-time job back on her show. So I want to know who is doing the pasta with Andy in the back, and how is Leah knowing any of this, and how can Leah prove this in the court in the court of law? People keep referencing Kathy Griffin as well, but it's like, you have to, if you're going to make these accusations and you can't prove them, then you're opening yourself up to a counter lawsuit of defamation. You have to be able to prove these things, because she also goes on to say that she knows of producers that were sending inappropriate photos, or higher ups that were sending inappropriate photos to people, not housewives specifically, but other people that are in the same work environment. There are a lot of big accusations that I don't think are easy for her to prove, and I'm trying to understand what the point of all of these accusations actually are, aside from trying to tarnish the reputation of the network and also drag Andy Cohen down in the process of it. My whole thing is, what was she saying? She has alcohol use disorder, which to me is not, I mean, that's like me walking into Whole Foods and being like, you know what, Whole Foods, I'm going to sue you because I have a right to be able to purchase food to feed my body without the temptation of seeing alcohol for sale right there when, I should not have to see that. It's like, no, I'm a responsible adult. I'm entering this establishment that I know sells alcohol. I need to have some sort of responsibility and personal accountability. And we've seen in recent years, since Leah McSweeney has joined Housewives, we've seen Lala Kent, we've seen Margaret Josephs, we've seen, Kyle Richards. We've seen these reality stars that don't get drunk, that don't drink, whether the alcohol is supplied or not. You can be willingly not. I mean, Lala considers herself an alcoholic. Margaret and Kyle have chosen to not drink, but Lala considers herself to be an alcoholic and doesn't drink on the show. That's a choice that she's made, and she has personal accountability. It's not the producer's job to babysit them, number one. So I think Leah needs to have a little personal accountability. For her, what is it? Alcohol use disorder. Yeah, alcohol use disorder. What a term. And listen, I have alcohol use disorder too. And again, if I'm walking into a bar, then I know whether or not I'm going to use that alcohol and feed my disorder.
Here's the difference, though.
I don't think that makes her I don't think that this is a case of disability, and I don't think they're neglecting her disabilities. And I don't think this was a concern to her, because we also saw that not only did she tape 2 seasons of Real Housewives of New York, she would have, I'm sure, signed on for a 3rd season had it not gotten canceled. But then she went on to film sober Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip season 3 in Thailand, where she didn't drink at all. And then not only that, but she openly admitted that part of the reason she did Ultimate Girls Trip 3 was because they promised her the opportunity to come on the reboot. So she was continuing to engage with this network. She was continuing to sign up for the camera time. She wanted the money and she wanted the TV time. And that's the reality of it. She's disgruntled and she's bitter because she doesn't have that opportunity anymore. And she feels like the network owes her something.
Here's the thing, though, in reference to the examples that you gave about Whole Foods or going into a bar, your employer has a different responsibility, especially if they are informed by you that you have a problem. So they have depending on the state, it's a little bit different state to state, but on some level, they still have a level of more responsibility than when you go into Whole Foods or if you go into a bar. There's a little bit more of a responsibility that they have. Bravo knows this. The other thing, though, as soon as she brought up the allegations of the pasta, we're for those that are just joining, we're replacing a word. He's been accused of this before. Years ago, Kathy Griffin, formerly an employee of Andy Cohen and former employee of Bravo and NBC Universal, she accused him of something similar. But she's like, I don't do any of that stuff. And she accused him of coming into her dressing room at Watch What Happens Live and saying that to her multiple times. Not just one time when she was on Watch What Happens Live. She said other times, allegedly. Doesn't make it true, but immediately when I saw this accusation, which could be why Leah brought it up, maybe that's how she spin this. I don't know, but it is interesting the 2 people that are coming out against Andy this week in the latest saga of surviving Andy Cohen.
I mean, listen, I agree. I don't think it's appropriate, but also at the same time, how is it too different from going out for happy hour cocktails with your colleagues after work, or going to, a dinner, that your company holiday party where there's alcohol being provided and there are colleagues and their bosses and everyone is willingly partaking in this substance abuse, substance usage, however you want to say it. Like, again, you can't completely remove like Kathy Griffin said she didn't want her pasta. She was like, no, I'm watching my figure. I don't want some extra carbs. I'm not going to do the pasta with you, Andy Cohen. So, and she did it. Listen, I'm not defending Andy. I just think a lot of people don't like Andy. And so they're using this to, claw onto him because of their, whatever reason they don't like him. Does that mean that the things that he did were not inappropriate? I'm not trying to say that. You shouldn't have any sort of illegal substances on set in your dressing rooms or whatever. That's his responsibility to not have that. But I mean, I just think Leah listen, she had a complaint that she filed against the network that was dismissed. It didn't go anywhere because there was no substance to her allegations. If there was any, like, she's trying. I mean, even when she did Bethany's Reality Reckoning documentary, there were so many footnotes that they had to add in to prove that the allegations that she was making or that her claims had not been factually, that they weren't able to prove them factually, or
Or
that they had,
substantiate them.
yeah, they weren't able to substantiate them. Thank you. And so it's like, I don't understand what her end goal with all of this is. I think she's upset that she, doesn't. I mean, I know everyone wants to see the takedown of Bravo and they want to see the takedown of Andy Cohen because it's fun to watch the takedown of a big organization. But, I don't think that anything that she's revealed or that Brandi is revealed is what's going to take them all down. If anything, especially coming from, with their history and their background and their behavior on these shows, I don't think they're the most credible people to even lead this charge.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things, just to kind of give a counter argument in regards to, workplace hanging out and things like that, we have to remember what Brandi and Leah are accusing production in Bravo and Andy Cohen of is, remember, they're filming. So they're actively working and drinking. So it's a little bit different when you're after work and you're technically not on working hours. This is why you have to have a good attorney to kind of really argue this in court, because it's not as, black and white as, NBC is terrible. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. If they have good attorneys and they are able to argue it properly, we shall see. I highly doubt that this is going to go to trial. Or even who knows how far it will even go in regards to even a settlement. We shall see. But I had to talk about it with you, Zach. You're here, of course. Of course, guys, you're just joining us. We're here with the host of No Filter with Zack Peter. And you have a new show called Disaster Daters. We played a clip of it a little bit earlier. More information on Zach is available in the description. And Zach, I appreciate you hanging out with us for this long. Let me just say thank you. Joe, what messy thing do you have to say now? It looks like the suits are coming for Bethany's reality TV Reckoning pals. Is Bethany going to nudge other folks to follow suit? Rachel, maybe? Do you think Rachel would I'm surprised that if she was going to do anything legally, she would have done it already. But I think some people have said the same thing about Brandi. And Brandi hasn't done anything either.
Bethany was just bragging about all the money she's making. Why doesn't she put a little money to help these women? Listen, she's using the Rachel and Brandi and Leah the same way she's claiming the network used them. Bethany's, trying to ride their coattails and ride their backs the same exact way. And you don't see her throwing any pennies at them or trying to help them lead this charge unless it benefits Bethany. So
yeah, definitely. Zach, first of all, thank you so much for coming and being a part of our topics and Vanderpump Rules recap. Let people know what's coming up for you and where they can find you and all of that.
I have my new podcast, Disaster Daters, which is available now. You can listen to it on all of your favorite podcast platforms, or you can watch it exclusively on Spotify. Because, I'm the type of guy that, loves to invest. When I have a good company like Spotify that wants to work with me, I don't fumble that bag. I'm not Rachel Leviss. But yeah, definitely go listen to and watch Disaster Daters. A lot of people are like, oh, you're on YouTube. Is it on YouTube? It's not on YouTube, but you can watch it exclusively on Spotify. So download the app and go tune in. And listen to No Filter with Zack Peter. You've been on No Filter before. We stream it 4 days a week with bonus episodes on Fridays. Cover all the latest reality TV tea. Lately, we've been talking a lot about Love is Blind. I don't know if you've heard, Megan Fox is on season 6 of Love is Blind. So,
she broke up with MKG or MK. What's his name?
MK.
Did they break up?
So,
I'm watching it. I love it.
It's good. It's so good.
And now you have to get into Risa Tisa. When you get a moment, it's a long.
Yes. Okay. It's on TikTok.
While you're doing something else. Maybe when you're walking the dogs or something. Listen to it. It's a mess. It's a mess. And I'm sure on YouTube, I'm sure I like to support creators. So go watch her videos. Give her the view. But thank you so much for being here, Zach. We appreciate you. Of course, all of you, thank you all for being in the live chat and being a part of this. If you're part of the replay crew, be sure to check out the description for more details on everything that's going on with Zack Peter. And of course, don't forget to give us a like, a view. And don't forget, Philly, I will be in Philly March 7th for the Kempire After Dark show. That's next week. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, what are you doing? And we've announced more cities to come. So again, follow us on the Kempire After Dark in the description for more details. Again, thank you, Zack, for being here. And thank you all for watching. Thank you to our mods. And thank you to all of our channel members and subscribers and Zack's posse. What do you call your folks?
The Zack Pack.
The Zack Pack. Zack Pack, thank you for being here as well. We appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like the video. We're going to get out of here. I will talk to you guys later.
Ooh, you bring the lighter, I got the fuse. You make a fire, I'll ask you. Follow my lead.